For about a year, I used the Pixel 6 Pro as my primary device, until the iPhone 14 Pro came out. There were plenty of things I loved about the Pixel, but all said and done, I ended up choosing the complete ecosystem of Apple products. But that doesn't mean it's the right choice for everyone. Google's flagship is significantly cheaper than Apple's, which could make it a really compelling option. The iPhone 14 Pro Max and Pixel 7 Pro have been out for some time now, so I think it's worth taking another look at how the two devices compare and if Google has managed to catch up at all with Apple's flagship device. Right off the bat, while the iPhone 14 Pro Max and Pixel 7 Pro may be a similar size, the moment you hold them, they're extremely different devices. The iPhone has its boxy design with flat edges, while the Pixel 7 Pro is all curves. The iPhone is offered in purple, gold, silver, or black, with my favorite being the deep purple. By comparison, the Pixel's options include black, white, or hazel. The metallic finish on the Pixel's camera bar can be a nice addition though. Both of these phones really emphasize their cameras, but which design you prefer is up to personal preference. Looking at the screens, they appear very similar on paper. The Pixel screen has a slightly higher resolution, but both are a high enough resolution for a screen of this size that you're not really going to notice the difference. They're 120Hz panels, with the iPhone sporting Apple's ProMotion branding, so both can offer a smoother experience than phones with 60Hz panels. The place where the iPhone screen will pull ahead is in outdoor, brightly lit situations. With a brightness of 1000 nits, peaking up to 1600 nits, and a higher outdoor peaking of 2000 nits, the iPhone can get noticeably brighter than the Pixel's 1000 nit screen that can peak at 1500 nits. The Pixel screen also has curved edges, which undeniably look quite nice, but they can negatively impact the user experience during some gestures. The iPhone also has a much larger cutout at the top of the screen. This dynamic island is used to show small bits of information around the side of the camera. That section houses the selfie camera and hardware for the phone's Face ID. In either case, you'll get used to that bit of missing screen, but the animations around the dynamic island will draw your eyes to it more often than the small hole punch of the Pixel 7 Pro. Whether that's a good or bad thing is up for you to decide. The screen in the Pixel 7 Pro also houses an in-display fingerprint reader. It's a nice step up from the fingerprint reader of the Pixel 6 Pro, and the Pixel 7 also features a software-based face unlock for those who prefer to unlock their phones that way. There's no fingerprint sensor on the iPhone, but the hardware-based Face ID is quick and handy, and the unlock method I prefer. Hardware-wise, the Pixel 7 Pro is rocking Google's own Tensor G2 chip, while the iPhone rocks Apple's A16 Bionic. The Pixel also has double as much RAM as the iPhone, 12 gigs versus 6. But with the software of these two being so different, the actual specs of the phone matter far less than how the phone is optimized for that hardware. Even still, on pure power, the Tensor processor lags behind even other Android phones in terms of pure power, while the A16 Bionic is the best mobile processor to date. Software-wise, the fact that iOS is designed for such a limited number of hardware versions really lets it shine. Still, you're not going to be held back by either option. The processing power of most phones nowadays is more than necessary for most daily tasks, but you can really see that software optimization in battery life. The iPhone has a significantly smaller battery, 4300 mAh compared to the Pixel 7's 5000 mAh. The Pixel 7 Pro will have no problem lasting you all day long. With the iPhone though, if you're a lightweight user, you could make it 2 days on a charge. The fastest way to charge up either device is with a wired connection, and the iPhone will get you slightly faster charge times there. But when using a standard Qi charger, the Pixel 7 Pro can charge at more than double the wattage of the iPhone. Apple really wants you to use their MagSafe chargers. The Pixel also has the ability to reverse charge at 5 watts. It's not necessarily a feature I would use a ton, but it could come in handy in a pinch. The iPhone 14 Pro has iOS 16, while the Pixel 7 Pro is running Android 13. The differences between iOS and Android could be a dedicated series of videos on their own, so I can't dive too much into it here. Material U has been a nice change to Android, bringing the aesthetic of your wallpaper throughout the device. But Apple's software support is much more extensive and longer lasting than Google's. While the Pixel 7 Pro will get you 3 years of OS upgrades, and then 2 more years of security patches after that, Apple has provided operating system updates for phones for as long as 7 or 8 years. The iPhone 14 Pro Max will certainly be capable of remaining as your daily driver phone for longer than the Pixel can. I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention the iPhone's satellite connectivity. Most of the time, it's not something you'll think about. The satellites can't provide data or allow normal phone calls, but if you're entirely out of cell signal and you want to update your Find My location or you need to contact emergency services, the iPhone 14 lineup is able to do that. You answer some text prompts and aim your phone at a Globalstar satellite to get connected with a local emergency dispatch center so they can get help headed your way. Most people will never need to worry about this, but it has already proved to be a life-saving feature. So if you often go hiking a long distance from cell signal, it's worth knowing about. Now, for what I consider one of the most important parts of the phone, the cameras. The primary sensor on the Pixel is 50 megapixels, while the iPhone sensor is 48. Most of the time, the iPhone will be shooting at 12 megapixels though, unless you enable RAW shooting. The iPhone has a slightly faster aperture of f1.78 compared to the Pixel's f1.9. That should give it a slight edge in darker settings, but most of that ability will come from the phone's respective night modes and computational photography. Both have 12 megapixel ultra-wide cameras, though the Pixel's camera is ever so slightly wider. Where you'll see the biggest difference between the two is in the telephoto camera. Apple's 3x telephoto camera is 12 megapixels, and about the equivalent of a 77mm focal length. Meanwhile, Google's lens is the equivalent of almost 120mm. It also has a higher resolution 48 megapixel sensor, so you can do a digital crop much farther into the resulting photo. This comes at the sacrifice of letting a bit less light in, with its f3.5 lens compared to the iPhone 14's f2.8. I really like the longer lens on the Pixel over the iPhones. The selfie cameras on both phones are just fine with their 12 megapixel resolutions. The iPhone has its new dynamic island housing the selfie camera, while the Pixel 7 Pro has a much smaller punch hole camera. It's hard to get a full understanding of the cameras from just the specs though, as with phones now, computational photography is where the real magic is. Google's photo experience often gives them a strong edge in accurately representing skin tones, and Apple's Smart HDR4 can sometimes lead to poor results, washing out color. In the video department, both phones can do 4K, 60fps shooting, with the Pixel 7 Pro able to shoot 10-bit HDR10 video, while the iPhone can shoot Dolby Vision video. Apple also has the ability to shoot in ProRes for people who really want to have as much data as possible to edit their footage in post. Finally, there's the all-important aspect of cost. The Pixel 7 Pro starts at $899 for the 128GB option, $999 for the 256GB option, and $1099 for the 512GB option. The iPhone 14 Pro Max starts $200 more expensive, $1099 for the 128GB option. The 256GB model goes up to $1199. The 512GB model will cost $1399. Apple also has a 1TB option, which will cost an eye-watering $1599. Whether the iPhone is worth that extra cost for you will probably depend on the ecosystem you're in. There's a good chance you knew which one you wanted before Apple and Google even unveiled their phones. If you already have an iPad or MacBook, things like Handoff, AirDrop, and iMessage easily make it worth it to stay within Apple's ecosystem. Apple's products just work, and they work really well together. When using an Android phone, I love how easy it is to sideload apps and customize. Android is catching up a bit with things like Nearby Share and RCS, but these aren't nearly as ubiquitous as Apple's solutions. I'm still waiting on Apple to adopt RCS in addition to iMessage. That would create better message interoperability between iPhones and Android, and be a win for all consumers, but Apple seems as unlikely as ever to adopt it. Massive thanks to Damien with 9to5Google for a ton of help with this video. If you're interested in some more Google-focused content, check out his excellent coverage over at youtube.com/9to5Google. If there are any big advantages to one phone over the other you think I missed, let me know in the comments down below. Also, if you're an iPhone user, I'm curious to know if you've ever tried an Android phone for yourself. If this video helped you out, consider leaving a like and subscribe to the channel for more from 9to5Mac.